This video is brought to you by Squarespace. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to my hidden gem pick of this month, and it's going to be 1999's Stir of Echoes. This has always been one of my favorite horror films, one of my favorite paranormal films, but it's always seemed to be extremely overshadowed and almost forgotten. There's some people that know it, most people that know it love it, but it had the unfortunate fate of coming out the same year as Blair Witch Project and even more significantly, The Sixth Sense. And back in 1999, this was absolutely the forgotten one as far as paranormal haunting movies. Over the years, it has maintained to be one of my favorites to where, call me crazy, I actually prefer it to The Sixth Sense. And it tells the story of an everyday man, a father and a husband, played by Kevin Bacon, who in a night of drunkenly goofing around, he gets hypnotized by his sister-in-law, which inadvertently awakens this psychic ability inside of him, where he is now able to have premonitions, he's able to get these really weird feelings and vibes off of the settings and the people around him. He's even able to see and somewhat communicate with the dead. And with this new awakening, he is then haunted and tormented by this spirit that lives inside of his house. And so you go on this really tense ride as he is trying to navigate these new abilities, trying to figure out what they mean, what they're trying to tell him, while also having this ghost on his ass that wants him to do something that he can't quite figure out what it is. And the longer that he waits, the longer that he doesn't do what this ghost wants, the more that she torments him. So if you've never heard of the film, if you've never seen it, I highly encourage you to check it out. As I've said multiple times, it is one of my favorites. I couldn't give you a higher recommendation than that. I am going to discuss some spoilerific details in the review, but I'm still going to try my best to temper that as much as possible because I feel most people probably have not seen this film. But really quick before we dive into Stir of Echoes, it doesn't take a premonition or a sixth sense to be able to tell that being an entrepreneur or a creative that wants to get their name out there is extremely difficult without having your own website. So rectify that by checking out the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. Whether you're an entrepreneur running your own business or just a creative that's trying to share their ideas with the world, getting your name out there is very difficult. And having your own website is absolutely crucial to navigating that difficulty. But if you're like me, you don't know anything about web design and you wouldn't have even the first clue about where to start. Well, luckily for people like us, Squarespace is an all-in-one website design platform that gives entrepreneurs and creatives the ability to stand out and succeed online. Squarespace makes it very easy for you to create your own website, engage with your audience, and even sell things from products to content to your time, all in one place, all on your terms. Squarespace's new Blueprint AI allows you to personalize your new website with a guided design system and choose from professionally curated layouts and styling options to build the base of your site. You can also upload video content and organize an entire library to showcase your content on a video page, or even sell custom merch for a passive income stream that engages your audience and scales your brand. So if you're ready to break ground on your own website, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Cody Leach to save 10% off of your first purchase of a website or domain. And thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Starting off with the positives of Stir of Echoes, what I love about this movie is that, to me, it very much circumvents a lot of the common cliches and trappings of paranormal or haunted house type films. More often than not, it's about somebody being in a setting where ghosts and different apparitions and jump scares and weird encounters are just coming a mile a minute. And in this film, they focus on one entity. There is one spirit that is tormenting Kevin Bacon's character. And it's not really even in a sense that she just jumps out and scares him every single time that he turns a light off or turns a corner or goes to shut a fridge. She's just this lingering presence that has a certain threatening nature about her, but also at the same time is very much just there waiting. And this slow building tension, this slow building sense of dread as the torment gets deeper and deeper with Kevin Bacon's character is where all of the horror comes from. It doesn't come from jump scares. It doesn't come from how nasty we can make these ghosts look or give suggestions about how they died, having brains coming out of the back of their head or having scars on their wrists or anything like that, or even having full-on conversations where you have a dialogue exchange between the main character and these paranormal entities. It's completely different than most movies you have seen that fit into that category. And through the different ways that Kevin Bacon's character's newfound abilities manifest themselves, whether it is seeing and trying to communicate with ghosts, whether it's premonitions or having, a time loop effect with something that he's seeing or hearing, or even getting these ominous like red flashes when he looks at people to give him an idea where they are and where they're going. There's so many different layers to what has been awakened in him that the film always finds a way to kind of change up what is going on, what we're focusing on, and where the tension and the dread is coming from. It's not like the ghost shows up and it's just ghost shit for the next 90 minutes. There's so many different layers to how these newfound abilities is just dismantling him from the inside out. And even more so than the hauntings or the weird premonitions, the main focus as far as a lot of the drama and the tension of the movie is how Kevin Bacon's character being dismantled from within by all these weird things happening to him is affecting his family, his wife and his son, and even affecting his mental state and him not going to work and him having insomnia and just slowly making him almost seem like he's going crazy when he's quite literally being tormented. And so because we know everything that Tom is going through and that Tom is seeing and enduring, we automatically sympathize with him because we know why he is beginning to go nuts. But at the same time, we never really lose sympathy with his wife, even though she's always on his ass throughout the entire movie. And the ticking time element that's brought into this movie that brings a lot of tension is mainly to do with their relationship. It's how far is he going to go where she's going to stick around? Is he eventually going to go too far? Is he going to have this mental break like Jack Torrance in The Shining? It's not so much about any ticking time element with this ghost or what the ghost wants or what eventually is going to be revealed with the nature of the crime that created that ghost. It's just, where is the limit with Tom, and where is the limits even more importantly with his wife and son? And as far as performances go, everybody in the movie for the most part is great. Kevin Bacon, I genuinely think this is one of his best performances of his career, which is a tall order because I don't think I've ever seen a bad performance from Kevin Bacon, but he goes for it here as far as somebody that is just having this mental disillusion where he is getting scared and petrified of what is going on. He is mentally obsessing over what is going on. When he has arguments with his wife, he goes for it, and you feel where all of this tension and all this built up, grief and regrets and disappointment with his life is manifesting into this haunting. And it's because Kevin Bacon is so consistently good in this movie, and he gives you so many different layers throughout the progression, or I guess the digression of his character. Somebody who's cool, kind of casual, go with the flow party guy that suddenly starts to get very scared and petrified and then turns into like obsessive and almost psychotic. Like the way that he has this gradual progression of psychosis throughout the movie, he never misses a single beat. Not one single scene with Kevin Bacon feels like he didn't give it his all. And going along with that, Catherine Irby plays his wife here, and she is outstanding as well. I've always really liked her, even though you don't see her in too much. She's in What About Bob? She's in this, and most notably in Law and Order: Criminal Intent, but she's great here playing off of Kevin Bacon, and it's really important to have somebody that can act alongside the level of Kevin Bacon, because as I've said, her character very easily could have been somebody who is unlikable because she is constantly antagonistic towards Kevin Bacon and how he is degressing and how he is putting his son and their marriage in jeopardy. But you never lose sympathy for her. You never lose the sight that she is right, even though she's completely ignorant to what he's actually going through. And what stands out about her character and Maggie is that she's such a strong character. Like all the different things that Kevin Bacon goes through, as well as things that he says about the state of his life and how he's kind of disappointed with being an ordinary person. And as he starts to degress and she's starting to realize that even her son has some form of clairvoyance, and she's trying to navigate all of this while being the glue that holds the family together. It's because she's such a strong character that you believe she's able to do all of that. She's able to go and find answers when Kevin Bacon isn't strong enough. For as passionate as he begins to get and as obsessive as he begins to get over this mystery, over this haunting, she's able to push back against him with just as much passion. I think the film is perfectly paced out as well. It starts with the creepy vibes and the tension within the first minute and a half, where it opens up with Jake, the little boy, talking with a ghost, like looking at the camera, and the camera is actually a spirit. Immediately puts you on edge and makes you uneasy about where things are going to go. And as I've said, mostly through the way that they're exploring these newfound abilities with Kevin Bacon and all the different ways that it manifests itself, the movie never feels like it's getting stale. It just continuously, gradually increases in the craziness, in the tension, and you're just sitting there wondering where all of this is going to eventually go, how it's all going to come together, and what reveals are going to be the catalyst for all of it coming together. And while it's one of the more subtle things and one of the more grounded things being explored in this film, I also have always enjoyed how it kind of takes a hard look at suburban life or neighborhood life and your neighbors, all these people that hang out and they see each other and they put on this face of everything's cool, life is great. And as soon as they go in their house and the doors close, you never know what those people are dealing with. You never know what skeletons are in the closet. You never know what secrets they're harboring. You never know what their true intentions are with anybody, be it their family or their neighbors or themselves. And so very subtly throughout the movie, it kind of takes moments to dive into that. People that you think are these awesome people that live next door very easily could not be. And how many houses do you walk by or drive by every single day that has these horrific secrets inside of those walls? And finally, as far as a distinct style that this movie has that I've always enjoyed, is that David Koepp did a very cool thing as far as how he shot the ghost, where, if I'm not mistaken, it was pretty much all done with camera tricks. It wasn't done in a computer with CGI or anything like that. You shoot these sequences with a lower frame rate, and he slows it down and speeds it up in certain little segments. So it has this very unsettling, stuttering movement when the ghost actually appears and moves. And even when the ghost tries to talk, there's something otherworldly about it in a very simple way that to me is very creepy and definitely rises the tension a lot without having to do jump scares or anything. Some of the more cliche tricks that you see in movies like this. As far as mixed aspects, I only have two, and they lean mixed positive. I really don't have too many major issues with this film. One of them is that I think if any performance in this movie has room to be better, it's the young kid that plays Jake. I think he does fine here. He certainly doesn't do a bad performance, and there might even be part of it that was intentional, where his son has a much more clear ability of clairvoyance, and so he's much more comfortable with what is going on. And so for as crazy as the events of this movie get, the kid never really gets overly emotional. And so I feel like if there was an opportunity to get a little bit more emotion out of him, maybe it would have worked a little bit better, where Kevin Bacon's losing his mind and his mom is getting very disturbed and upset about it, maybe having a little bit more of a reaction from Jake. But again, he does perfectly fine. I just think there was moments in the movie he could have done maybe a little bit more. And the other mixed aspect that I have is the utilization of the character Neil. So about halfway through the movie, Maggie and Jake are just out walking around and through chance come across this man named Neil, who is obviously a very strong psychic or clairvoyant himself, immediately detects it in Jake, immediately comes to the conclusion that the father, who I'm not looking at, must also have the ability, and so he just approaches them in a really creepy way and has Maggie hey, tell your husband to come see me later, and I'll teach him a few things. And so it's effectively weird and creepy. And I think that especially when Maggie goes and confronts him for the information, it's yet again just another addition to how strong of a character that she is in the movie. But those two sequences have always felt slightly exposition dumpy for me, where just We needed a reason. We needed some way to give more explanation to what is going on. So they're just going to meet this random dude. There's a better way I think they could have got that information out there. Although I do love the analogy that he gives that is so disturbing for what is going on with Kevin Bacon's character, where he says, it's like being in a dark tunnel and you have a flashlight that doesn't work very well and it only comes on every once in a while, and he gets a glimpse of something, but not enough to know what it is, just enough to know that it's there. That is so disturbing as a way to describe what is going on with Kevin Bacon's character, especially for his wife to hear. And so I love that part of it. I love that specific line. It's just always felt a little too convenient for me to get the information in that way. And that's really all I've ever had to say that's even partially negative about this film. I don't have any hard negatives for it. I think that it's a fantastic movie that is, severely underrated and underseen, and was just unfortunately overshadowed by the year that it just happened to come out, where much more iconic movies that blasted into the pop culture much stronger than this one just completely snuffed it out of the conversation. But if you haven't seen it, please, I implore you, these types of movies, if you enjoy them, this is one of the best ones that don't get talked about enough.
What's the worst that can happen?
Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, please click over here for all of my 2024 new release reviews. And I'm also going to put my most recent hidden gem review up here for you to check out as well. Like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.